Good morning and welcome to the video for 5th grade for April the 3rd. This covers the work from the 2nd. Today we were working with multiplying fractions to be able to do problem solving. So let's go ahead and take a look at our questions for today. Number 1, I had to kind of fill in part of it so that we could figure out what was going on. So we are doing 1 3/8 times 2/3. So if I do that, I'm going to get 22 over 24, which reduces down to 11/12. So we want to figure out which one of these things does not work. So my very first option would have, for the answer, the entire shape plus 6/24 filled in. That one is going to be the one that is not correct. So this is the version of what I did up here. All I did was change this to an improper fraction. If I were to take these 6 parts and move them over here, I would end up with 2 parts left over, which would be 22 parts out of 24, so this one would be correct. And I was skeptical about this one first, and then I worked it out and it's like, oh, that actually comes out to 11/12. So yeah, the one that is messed up or is not correct would be letter A. Number 2, at a local market, 2/5 of all the produce sold is apples. Of the apples that are sold, 1/2 of those are red delicious apples. What part of the produce sold is red delicious apples? That would be 1/5. Number 5, practicing the piano for 3/4 of an hour. 1/6 of that time is used to practice finger exercises. So if I change this into something that I'm counting 6 parts on top, and then I'm relating it to only using one of those 6 parts, I can multiply the top and bottom number by 2 to change 3/4 to 6/8. And if I use one of those parts, I would be practicing that for 1/8 of an hour. Number 6, here is my attempt to kind of draw a model. So if we have 3/8 of a fence left to paint, we've already painted 5/8 of the fence. So this is the part that we have to do. He's going to do 2 of those parts today. So let's say that we're doing those 2. So that would be 2 out of 8 parts that he's doing. That converts to 1/4. So that would be the fraction for the part of the fence that Jason paints today. Number 7, a trail mix recipe calls for 3/4 cups of almonds and 2/3 of a cup of coconut. How many cups of almonds are needed to make half of the recipe? We take our 3/4, multiply it by 1/2 to get 3/8. Number 10, so I wrote some problems out to the side to kind of help us. So we use 5/6 of a cup of flour to make half of the recipe. If I do that, I would start with taking 1 2/3, changing it to 5/3, multiplying it by 1/2 to get 5/6. That is correct. Use 1 cup of salt. So to make 3/4 of the recipe, well, if I don't even use an entire cup of salt for the recipe, I'm not going to use more salt to make less of the recipe. So that one is going to be false. Using 9 tablespoons of oil. So I did the problem for that over here. I use 27/4 of a teaspoon of oil, and I am taking 1 1/3, which would be multiplying it by 4/3 to get 108 over 12, which would give me 9. So that part is true. And then if I use 4.5 teaspoons of food coloring, if I'm going to double the recipe, I do 4.5 plus 4.5. That would give me 9. So 8.5 is not going to be enough to do that. I accidentally thought we were supposed to do number 11, and then I realized after I worked it out that that was not true. So just ignore that I did that. If you did number 11, there's the answer. It wasn't super difficult. So number 12, we are going to take our 7.5 acres on this side. And so that's going to be 15 over 2. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different parts. And so I would get 60 over 12, and that reduces down to 5 acres of this park is available for sports. For the second one, this part is supposed to be shaded in, but in my scan of this, it did not show up. So 5/8 of the park is available for sports fields. We are working with 6.5 acres. That would give us 13 over 2 times 5/8 gives us 65 over 16, which reduces down to 4 and 1/16 of an acre. And I would prefer Park A because there is more room for sports. So those were our questions for today. Obviously, I'm in the classroom today. I will be working on making packets today and tomorrow to get sent home. So we will be sending that home. Hopefully everyone understood the video that I sent out to the parents last night about Google Classroom, how to get on there. I've heard 5th grade has done pretty well with that. So if anybody in 5th grade still hasn't done that yet and you're seeing this video, please have your parents check the email for GradeLink. And that should give you the instructions to be able to get into the class. So hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.